single best predictor of health and well-being is the number and quality of our close friendships. It's not something we talk about enough, which is kind of a big deal because you can actually live longer. So actually, you can live about 7 to 10 years longer if you have good quality friendships. So that's the good news. And there's lots of slew of other things. It's not just your longevity, it's your health span. You will literally less likely to get COVID, faster to recover from COVID. There's neuroprotective. There's tons and tons of research on this for decades of research that show social connection is highly related to your well-being. And so even Brian Johnson has been tweeting about this as part of his protocol, saying, hey, you should pay attention to your relationships too, not just what you take or how much you exercise. Yet, despite the fact that our relationships impact our health so much, we are not doing them as much as we used to. This is the opposite direction we should be going. So you can see just in the span of 20, 30 years, our friendship groups have basically been cut in half. And that's just the number of connections. It doesn't even mean the quality of the connections. So this is actually very worrying because if this is the biggest thing that's impacting our health and we're going in the opposite direction, we need to change this. And this decline is actually particularly strong among men for a lot of different reasons. So that we also see this in a lot of issues in our society in terms of the things that men are struggling with. So it's also particularly a guy issue as well. The short of it is we evolved to connect. It's not a big surprise. Why is our health tied to a social connection? Well, it's also tied to our our ability to survive back in the old days, right? The Paleolithic times. We needed to collaborate with others in order to survive. If we didn't, we were likely to die. So naturally, evolution said, hey, maybe you should learn to be really good at making friendships because you need to be in a tribe to survive. And so, some people might know the Dunbar number that talks about how many friends you should have. Well, actually, he's studied a lot about evolutionary biology. And the interesting thing is when we talk about loneliness, we often talk about it as a feeling. And actually, Paul here is he was saying in his presentation the other day that I really loved it. He said, feelings are physiological. So I think this is really important because we talk about loneliness, but I've noticed that everyone talks about loneliness epidemic, but how often do you hear someone say, I am lonely? Most people do not identify as being a lonely person. So that's part of the problem is we don't talk about this. And it's kind of the same situation we were in with mental health care, right? If you go to a therapist, you're crazy. Now it's mainstream. Everyone's been to a therapist. It's so mainstream, we don't even think about that anymore. And I think we're in the same situation now with social health as well. So it's just an alarm signal of something wrong. And this is a little bit of chart that kind of shows, maybe it's hard to read, but it shows the magnitude of having friendship compared to other things that oftentimes people in healthcare suggest for us to do, like stop smoking, drink less, exercise, try to stay thin, try to stop doing drugs, things like that. And you can see the quality of your friendships has a much, much higher magnitude impact on your well-being. But again, really weird thing is doctors generally don't say go get more friends, even though it's actually the thing that's most likely to lead to good outcomes for you. So this is kind of where we are now is when you think about it, we had to invent physical health, gyms. We had to invent gyms because we started doing desk jobs. And then eventually we started talking about mental health care in the last couple of decades. And I really strongly believe that social wellness is really this third digital wave that we need as well. Because technology is just a tool. It's a tool to help us to do something. We were struggling with physical health before. We were struggling with mental health before. So we created tools for that. The Peloton, Calm, all this stuff. We basically need the same tools for social health. So this is kind of another way to see it is social health is part of this kind of pyramid about what's good for you. So we have the physical, mental, and social, and so we have these three aspects of the thing. And this is what I call total health. We need all of these things. And actually, you could argue that social is probably the most important one because actually the thing that's most likely to, for you to be physically healthy and mentally healthy is your social health. A lot of the things we do are habits for exercise are actually related to doing it with friends and things like that. If you have lots of friends who exercise, you are more likely to exercise. There's a lot of research on this. Same thing with mental health care. If you have really high quality friendships, you likely will be healthier. So this is the basis of having real health. So, okay, why don't we have this? There's a lot of reasons, but probably most of you can guess like some of the things. Most of the technology we have right now is not so great for us. Social media is basically cheap dopamine and empty social calories. It's ultra-processed relationships. You're having parasocial relationships with your own family and friends. It turns out that's not so great for you. So this is actually a slide from Tristan Harris's recent TED Talk on this. He was talking about what was the possible and probable about social media as a technology when we started inventing that. Because the people who invented this didn't mean to do this. Like, it did start out as some actually good impulses, right? Hey, let's connect you with your friends. You can find like-minded communities online. You can give people more voice. All great things. But also, as technologists, they didn't think deeply enough about the probable, not just the possible, which is you get doom scrolling, addiction, and short attention spans, all this stuff coming out of it. And I think we see the same thing happening with AI. We're talking so much about the possible that we're not necessarily talking about the probable. And this is a great example of it, is Mark Zuckerberg literally went on a podcast like a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we have space in our life for 15 friends, but most Americans only have 3. And what's his solution? AI friends. So, I think AI has a place. It's a tool. It's not going away. But this is probably the wrong direction for us to go, given we know that social media has already been terrible, and he's saying more of it. But it's not to make social media the boogeyman here. Like, technology in general is it's eroding our cognition. It's not just fragmenting our attention. It's actually making it harder for us to have memory. And it's actually draining our mental energy. So if you ever had that feeling where your friend invites you to do something, you're like, I'm really tired today. It's oftentimes not physical. Because if you go out with a friend and you start laughing and you have a good time, you forget how tired you were, which means it wasn't physical tiredness, it was mental tiredness. And actually, friendship could do that. So when your battery's at 1%, it might not be that you're actually 1%. It might be that you feel it's at 1% because you're cognitively overloaded because of the environment we're in today with technology and many other things. And this actually has a huge cost to us, $190 billion just for workers because they're using technology so much. And this is one of the promises of AI is actually it can get us off our screens potentially more because it can become a layer in our environment. There is some interesting things there. So again, technology is not the enemy here. It's just how we're using it as a tool. And one of the reasons why social connection is so hard is getting together with friends is hard as an adult. If you're in your career, if you have kids, if you're parents, there's so many questions you need to jump through just to get together with one friend. And then as soon as you add more friends, this becomes even more complicated. This is a funny tweet I always keep coming back to. Adult friendship is 2 people saying, I haven't seen you in forever, we should really hang out over and over again until one of you dies. I think we can all relate to that, that one friend that we're chasing, or we're the person someone's chasing. Another version of this is, losing your friends in parenthood is a really common thing. And so these are things that really strike chords. You can see like how many times they've been retweeted and stuff. And so that's basically what I've been working on solving is like, how can we, this is a great problem for AI to actually solve. This is the best problem for us to solve is how do you solve this coordination issue where it's a lot of hoops we have to jump through to get together with our friends. Guess what? Our ancestors didn't have to deal with this because they live in tribes and they would just like wake up next to the person who was their friend. So this is like evolutionary. We didn't have to solve this before, which is part of why we're so bad at not solving this today. And actually, this is where technology can help us. This is where we should be focusing our efforts. So it's really about finding commonality, finding proximity, availability, and that out of that you create frequency and intimacy, and then when you do enough frequency, you create history. So there's a lot of things that can come out of this, and I do believe that AI can actually solve this. So this is actually what I've been working on, is to basically take all this science and try to reverse engineer from biology. How could we create something that is using AI and other technology to help us solve this friendship problem? How can we get the maximum out of a friendship. So, like going back to the thing, longevity, friendships can literally add 7 years to our life. So we call this 7 because we literally want to give you 7 years of extra life and also better spent years as well. So that's what I've been working on. I'm actually going to be doing a roundtable on all this topic. There's many, many rabbit holes here. So at 12 downstairs, I'm going to be doing a roundtable. So if you'd like to talk more, share your experiences. If you'd like a demo of this, we're in beta now. You can sign up. There's a web application, and we're going to be releasing a bunch of new things in the next week or two. So yeah, come join, come talk more, and thanks for coming out today.